Well, hello, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back. Jiu-Jitsu 2000 here today. I hope you guys are doing fantastic out there. I'm really excited right now. I picked up this Coleman 414 Powerhouse at a garage sale for $10. In this video today, we're going to take a look at this stove, see if it even runs, go through it, and hopefully have a good ending at the end of this video. So first thing I'm going to look at is to see, is everything there and does everything look like it's in fair shape? As I can see, you know, the little wings come out. It appears that everything is in fair shape. It needs a pretty good cleaning. This thing's a little bit dirty. The grate is in good condition. The burners, there's not a lot of rust on here. It's a little bit dirty. Needs a bath, but the tank. Cool thing about this, not only is it the Powerhouse model, but it's the dual fuel version. So this generator is actually designed for automotive gasoline, which I burn anyway in most of my stoves, almost all of them for that matter. But it's cool that I picked this up. I'm just blown away that I found this for 10 bucks. Can't believe it. So let's take a look real quick, fold these in. And what I want to look at is I want to look at the date stamp. Usually on the stove, it's on the bottom of the stove. So we are looking at 8 of 93. There is the date stamp, 8 of 93. The butterfly valve here looks like it's in good shape. Everything seems to move. It doesn't have any big damage or anything like that. It just needs cleaned up, really, from all I can tell, and gone through. I do see, however, on the suitcase portion right here, this little clasp is bent. See, it's kind of leaning that way, this clasp here. So I think that should probably be a pretty easy fix with a pair of channel locks here. Sitting next to me on the bench, I got some basic tools, so I'm just bending that back, and that is already fixed. Boom, that's a wrap. So first step is taking a look at this fuel tank. It does appear to have fuel in it. I'm going to listen to the cap as I release it and see if I can hear any air sound. I usually shake it up a little bit, turn the valve off, and I listen for air. Yes, I heard some air, so that's good. Hopefully, we'll see. Take the cap off, and let's take a look at the cap. Looks like the gasket is in okay shape. It's not bad, so I'll set that aside. We're gonna go ahead and dump out this fuel, and it smells like gasoline. This tank was pretty full too. It's not only do you get a stove for 10 bucks, but it's full of fuel, which we could probably use to fire this thing up. Now on the bench over here, I've got a few tools. I've got a small #1 Phillips screwdriver. I've got a basic flathead screwdriver. I got a small crescent wrench. I have a large crescent wrench, a small flathead screwdriver, the channel locks that you saw. I have a spark lighter and also a flashlight, as well as a check valve removal tool. I don't like how these tanks, you can't get all the fuel out like some of the older tanks. But we're going to go ahead and go through this, and in this process we'll probably be able to get some of the rest of the fuel out through here. First thing I want to do is I want to crack this valve off and see if I can get this off. I want to look at the air fuel inlet and see how that looks. So I'll pop this thing on the side, taking a large crescent wrench. I'm going to get a grip on this And the key here, honestly, is steady hands. Honestly, the easiest way to take this out is if you can put this upside down in a vise and spin the tank. But I always try with the large crescent wrench first that has a lot of leverage with steady hands. So let's go ahead and see if I can break this free. Yeah, not too bad. The key there is steady hands. Can't stress that enough. I just want to go through this stove and see what's going on with it. Most of the problems and things that I can go through and fix are on the tank, the valve, the pump, the cap. That's basically it. There's some other things on the stove that I'll talk about in this video, but this is the bread and butter of it right here. So let's take that out. We'll look at that in just a second, and I'll try to get the rest of the fuel out of this tank now that that valve's out of the way. I'm just so excited. If you look on the Coleman website, at the time of me filming this video, this stove, brand new, is $239. So the fact that I picked this up for 10 bucks just blows me away. I love finding good deals like that on old stoves. These things, if you can maintain them correctly, they'll almost run forever. They're very, very good stoves. What I want to make sure of is I want to take a look, and at the bottom of this fuel inlet, I want to make sure that when I put the lighting lever in the up position, that this little stem sticks out. And you can see that the lighting lever is in the up position, just like so, and that little stem sticks out. So what that means is it's going to pull vapor from this hole right here. So this sits in the tank like this, and you got gas, liquid fuel, and when the lighting lever is up, it's going to take gas or minimal liquid, and that's until you get the stove primed. And then when you're done, you put this down, and that little needle gets out of the way, and then that's when you start drawing liquid fuel. So from what I can see right now, it appears that that's in good shape. But I am going to take it apart anyway while I'm in here, just to double check and make sure that everything is good. So I'm just going to pull that out. I'm not going to spend a lot of time here. I'm going to look at this needle, make sure that needle is nice and clean, which you can see that it is. It looks pretty good. Clean up these threads a little bit. Be careful not to bend that needle. It's very, very easily damaged, so don't want to damage it. I'm also going to poke this through the bottom and just make sure that it fits nice and easy there. So you can see there that that needle easily fits through the bottom. So no problems there. We'll just go ahead and clean this thing up a little bit. I'm going to blow and make sure that I get air coming out of this hole. And everything looks good. So I'll take my little fingernail polish. I'll put it on only the threads. Don't get any in that hole or you'll clog that thing up. So you don't want to do that. Just put it on the threads here, and I'm going to put this back together. Some people don't use fingernail polish. I use it because it makes me feel good. I feel like I'm getting a better air connection or something. Maybe it works, maybe it don't. But that's what I like to do, so doesn't mean that you have to. I'm just sharing what I do. So we'll just tighten that down a little bit, and that is good. The next thing I want to look at is the generator. I want to take that apart, but I'm actually going to do that back on the tank. So for now, the air tube, I've checked it out. The air/fuel inlet, I've checked it out, and I see no problems there. I'm going to go ahead and put this back on the tank, and then we'll take the rest of this apart. We'll look at it. It'll just be easier to manage being on the fuel tank. I'm just going to clean this up a little bit, and that looks like it's in good condition. I also check the top here where the cap goes and make sure that there's no dents or dings or anything that could cause problems sealing with that cap, and I don't see nothing there. It looks pretty good. You don't need it here. I just do it because it makes me feel good. And the reason I say you don't need it is because this is a tapered fitting. But I just feel like it does a better job or something. And like I say always when I do these videos, maybe it's a placebo effect. Maybe it's just me thinking that it does something. So we're going to just spin this around. And then what we want to end up is an orientation kind of like this. We want the lighting lever on the left here. So I'm going to spin this around maybe one more time. Something like that. It doesn't have to be crazy. I think that's probably good. So from here, we're going to pull the tip off and we're going to pull the generator apart. And we want to see what the inside of the generator looks like, what the tip looks like. I'm noticing that this lighting lever goes up and down really easily. So that's easy. I did notice a little bit of fuel kind of leakage around here, so I might tighten that nut up just a hair while I'm here. Just give it a little bit of a tighten. There's a graphite packing in there that'll help with that. Let's take this valve out. I'm gonna remove this packing nut here, this valve nut. What this will do is this will get the valve and the needle out, and then hopefully it'll all slide out nice and smooth, and then we'll look at the generator itself and see what the generator looks like. Crescent wrenches, for me, they work pretty good, so no problem. Take this thing off. There's that another graphite packing in here. Okay, so we got the needle out. So we want to make sure that that needle is clean and that there's no carbon buildup on it. You see a little bit of carbon here on the tip of it. Also want to make sure that that needle right there against my finger on the tip, that needle is in good condition. And as you can see, we don't have any problems there. So I think I need to remove some of this carbon off of this needle. And this is a stainless steel needle. This is one of the good ones. So here we are with the 4/0 steel wool. I'm just going to grab this needle and I'm going to pull this thing away. I'm going to go in one direction. And all I'm trying to do is get rid of this carbon buildup that's on there. And so far, looks like it's done a good job. Just be really careful not to damage that tip or bend this rod. So that looks actually pretty good. That is much cleaner. I got rid of all that carbon, and that needle there at the tip is in good condition, as you can see. So I'll set that aside over here for a minute. And the next step is to pull the generator off, and we'll start with the tip here. We'll take this tip off. Okay, looks like the whole generator is going to come off, and that's okay. No problem. Is the spring going to come out? Maybe, maybe not. Okay, so let's go ahead and get our channel locks, and we're going to back up the pipe here so that we can use our crescent wrench right here and take this tip off. I want to get this tip off and hopefully get this spring out and take a look at it. Sometimes they come out easily and sometimes they don't. So there we go. That's interesting. I got part of a spring out. Is this like a two-part spring or something? Very interesting. So I'm looking through here. The rest of the spring is still in there, but you can see light through there, so it's showing that it's pretty well clear, which is good. That's what we want. But I want to get that spring out of there. Also want to take a look at this nozzle and make sure that you can see light through that nozzle. See that light shining through the nozzle there? That's good, because that's telling us that the nozzle is clear. If you can't see light through the nozzle, you can use this tip and generally put that tip in there, and sometimes you'll find the hole in the nozzle. Let's see, might have to go from underneath. There you go. You can see the needle sticking out of the top there. And we know that this nozzle is clear. So we'll set that aside. But what I'd really like to do is get this other spring out. Why isn't it coming out? Okay, I got a flat file here. Let's see if I can get this thing. Don't want to push too hard, but you want to try to get these springs out. Oh, there we go. Got one of them out. Wow. So that's interesting. It's not very often that you see the spring that's in 3 pieces. That's quite interesting. Now don't panic. That's actually not that big of a deal. It should be one long spring, but I see 3 pieces here. Not very cool, but hey, it's still all there, so that's what matters. And they're not very corroded. They're pretty clean for the most part. So we're also going to look through here and make sure that you can see daylight through there. So hopefully you're seeing that through that pipe. And if you have like a brush or something that can go inside, that can work really good to help with these generators. So I think that this is okay. It's not like in great condition. I mean, the spring is being in 3 pieces. That's a little frustrating, but hey, it is what it is. No problem. Let's put that short one in first. We'll put this middle one in, and then we'll put this one back on. I'm just happy that it's all there. So let's go ahead and clean these threads. We're going to put the tip back on the nozzle so that we can get a good airtight right here. I like putting paint here because in the event that you have any leaks, what happens when you have the paint is it fills the void. And even though the paint's going to burn off, it fills the void and it leaves the carbon in between the threads and the nozzle, so you don't have any issues. Works pretty good. So now we'll clean this other side. We'll also paint this, and we'll put this generator back on the stove, back on the valve here. I just really enjoy working on these things. They're so much fun to work on. I love fixing these things. We'll just get this threaded. This video. Hopefully you guys will be able to see this thing run. I'm hoping for that. There we go. Doesn't have to be gorilla tight, just snug it up. We're going to go ahead and insert this needle very carefully right back into the generator. We're going to try to make sure everything's centered really well. Not going to force anything or push hard or anything like that. We're going to put it right there, and I'm going to put some paint right here on these threads. Make sure that you don't get it on the valve threads here. Just put it on these threads if you're going to use it. You don't have to. There's a graphite packing in there, but I feel like this works better when I do this. I feel like it makes less areas for air to escape the system, and that's why I do it. It just seems to work good for me, and I've done this for a long time. I've never had a problem doing it. So now we're going to tighten this down. This is not needing to be tightened all the way down. What this tightness is based on, it's based on feel of this knob. So if the knob doesn't have enough resistance, you'll tighten this nut a little bit more, and what will happen is it'll go against that graphite packing, and the packing will squeeze around that shaft, and you'll feel the resistance when you turn the knob. And when you have the right resistance with that graphite packing doing its job, you'll feel it in the knob. Don't want to tighten it too hard or you won't be able to turn the knob so easily. So something like that feels good. There's a little bit of tension, a little bit of resistance. That's good, because what that does is that means there's not going to be any fuel leaks or anything around here. So I'm going to take this steel wool and just kind of buff around here. There was a little bit of debris on the valve itself. So now we're going to take a look at this pump. This has the new style pump. We just twist and pull. So that doesn't look bad. That pump cup looks okay. We'll set that aside for now. Take the air stem out. And now we're going to take this air stem with our check valve removal tool. We got two rods here. You want to find which one matches your check valve, which obviously you can see it's this one here. So that's the one that we're going to use. So we will put this right down inside of there. So hopefully you can see down in there, there's a brass check valve. That's what we're aiming for. We're going to take that out. So we're going to start with the one that's the same size as the air stem. This is the best way to remove a check valve. Now generally you don't really need to remove it. I'm only doing it because I have the tool, which makes it possible. So you just thread this in, and then you put this portion of the tool down inside, right around that shaft. That goes down in there. You just kind of turn it, and then put your little washer, little nut there. Tighten this thing a little bit. This will get it nice and tight up against the check valve. And now you can use a tool with a lot of leverage. Got a lot of fulcrum, you can break that thing easily. So this tool makes an easy job of removing the check valves. Now in the past, I used to use a flathead screwdriver, and I've damaged a lot of check valves. And because I work on so many of these stoves and lanterns and stuff, I ended up just buying the tool. To me, it felt like the right thing to do because I was working on so many of these pieces. I needed to have that check valve tool. So for me, it was a good purchase. Now this is one of the newer ones that has the O-ring around it. Let's go ahead and clean that up a little bit. So you see that O-ring there? So what I'll do here is I'm going to take my flashlight and I'm going to look down inside there, and I'm looking at the shaft, making sure that there's no scratches or dents or anything like that where the pump cup rides. I want to make sure that that's nice and clean. You can also put your finger in there and very carefully and kind of feel around if you feel anything that feels like a burr or anything that could damage the pump cup. And in my case, I don't feel anything bad. In fact, I'm going to take my rag and I'm just going to kind of roll it up, put it down in there a little bit, and just kind of clean this area out. I did notice that there was some oil floating around down in there. Now when you oil your pump cup, make sure that you don't use vegetable oil. If you use vegetable oil, that's not good because it's gonna get sticky and tacky and it'll really mess things up, and it could seize up your check valve. So, oh yeah, that's a lot better. That is nice and clean in there. Hopefully you guys will be able to see that. Nice and clean. Look at that. So now I'm going to take a look at this check valve. I want to make sure that this thing works. The idea behind the check valve, just in case there's somebody out there that doesn't understand, is what this valve does is this is a one-way air valve. Okay, so it'll let air go that way and not this way. So I want to blow from the tank side, and I should not be able to push air through. Nope. I'm also listening for that little ball, and it appears that this check valve is in good condition. It'll let air in but not out. Sometimes you'll get a check valve that you'll blow on and it'll have like a little bit of air leaking past. This one's good. If you have that, you can spray this thing down with carburetor cleaner, brake cleaner. You can boil it in citric acid, put it in vinegar. There's all kinds of little different tools and tricks that you can use with the check valve. Blow it out with your air compressor. There's a little stainless steel ball right in the middle, hopefully you'll see that. There's that little stainless steel ball right in the middle of the check valve. And that's the ball that does all the work. And it does its job by pressure, by air pressure. It's air pressure that pushes that ball against the seat, which stops air from coming through. Now, if you have that ball against the seat and you still have a little bit of a leak, maybe there's some debris or carbon, or it wouldn't really be carbon, I don't think, but maybe it's like oil or something in the way, and that check valve ball is not seating correctly, you can take something really small, like a little tiny punch or something, set the check valve down and give it a little tap, just a mild tap. And what generally will happen is whatever that ball was resting against that's letting the air past, when you hit it very gently, that ball will smash or break or disrupt whatever was in the way. And a lot of times, as a result, you'll fix the problem that you had with the check valve. You want to make sure you hear that ball dancing around freely, which we have that going on. So we're going to go ahead and put this back on the tool, and we will put this check valve back in the tank now that we know that it's good to go. Again, you don't have to do this. As long as your pump is putting air in the tank and you're holding pressure, you're good to go. Now, if you have pumped and you push the pump down and the pump's pushing back against your thumb, that could be a faulty check valve. So let's put some fingernail polish on those threads there. Don't want to get it anywhere around that steel ball, that stainless steel ball. We just want it on the threads. We're just going to put that bad boy right back down in there. Some of the older stoves or lanterns, the check valve does not have an O-ring. So we have one on this model, and that's kind of cool. Just an extra thing to seal against that tank. Tighten this up just a little bit. Don't over tighten the check valve. You have a piece of brass going into a piece of steel, so if you crank on it too hard, you could damage the brass, the check valve itself. So just cinch it up, and when you feel mediocre resistance, that's tight enough. Don't need to overdo it. So we'll take this stuff apart, take the check valve tool out, take this stem out, we'll put our air stem back in, and it's going to be kind of like shooting a bullseye. We want to get this air stem right in the center of the check valve down inside that tank there. Just like that. We're going to give it a few turns. And now let's clean this pump a little bit, this pump cup and pump. Make sure this is all clean. Don't want any kind of dirt or debris or anything like that on the pump. And we're looking at the seal, you know, the pump cup, and making sure that everything looks okay. And in this one, I don't see any problems. I personally like the older pump cups that have a leather cup better. I think they work better. I'm gonna blow through this hole, and we got air, so that's good. So we are pretty much done with the pump itself. Now, before I put this locking thing back on, I will put a couple drops of oil down inside of there. I just put about 4 drops in there. I want to make sure that that is nice and lubricated. And this little oil hole goes to the top, so we'll just put that right there like so. Lock the air stem by turning this clockwise, and we are pretty much done with this tank. There's one thing that I see happen a lot, and that is inside of this manifold here, you get spiders. They'll get in your stove, and they'll lay their little eggs and put their little nests, and they'll do all that stuff in there, and you don't want to deal with those spiders. So I've got some air here, and I'll blow air through this manifold, hoping to feel air come out of my burners. So let's try that. It's going to be noisy for a second. So I don't feel any blockages. Everything feels okay. Let's open this butterfly valve over here. And then I'll blow some more air. And I'm going to fill this burner and see if I can fill any air. So that's a good sign that we don't have any blockages or anything like that. Okay, so my objective for getting this video today is just getting this stove running. We can clean it later. I don't need to show you guys how to clean these stoves. It's just hot soap and water. I've got my little funnel with my coffee filter in it. We're going to put that there, and we're going to use this same fuel that came out of it. We're going to put it right back in. This tank holds a lot of fuel. Coffee filters work excellent for keeping debris and stuff out of the fuel, because we don't want all that rust and all that stuff back in the tank. So it appears that we have a pretty good little stove on our hands. I'm excited to see how this thing does. We'll take our cap, put our cap on. And now we're going to test our pump. We want to make sure our pump is good. Alright, let's see if it's pushing back. It is a little bit. Sometimes that check valve just needs air. That settled it down. I shook the fuel against it and it helped that ball go into position. You saw how it was pushing against my thumb. Let me give it a little bit more, about 10 more. Okay, and then we'll lock this thing in, this air stem, and that'll stop any air from coming in or out. Okay, so we'll take our fuel tank and we'll put it through the hole here. The generator goes into the manifold, and these two little tabs will hang on the tank. So now that we have this on, we're going to make sure that the butterfly valve is shut. Get our spark lighter. Lighting lever is up. Let's turn this knob and let's hear the stove. There we go. There we go. We're going to let the lighting lever stay up until we get beautiful blue flames. What's happening right now is we're heating up that generator. We want to heat up the generator so that it'll turn the liquid fuel to a vapor or a gas. This process is called priming. We're priming the stove right now. Put the lighting lever down and let's start drawing liquid. There we go. Looks like it's working pretty good. I don't see any fuel leaks anywhere, any liquid anywhere, so it looks okay. Let's go ahead and test the auxiliary over here. See if this will work. We'll open this valve. There we go. Increase the... Yeah, everything's looking good so far. Not too bad at all. We'll go ahead and close the auxiliary because we know that it now works. Minimize the main burner. And now I want to do a boil test. 32 ounces of room temperature water, uncovered. And we're going to see how this stove performs. Let's get this thing going. We'll set that right there. And get that bad boy on. Start the time. Let's see how long it takes. Okay, we're starting to see a rolling boil. I'm going to go ahead and stop the time. And as you can see, heavy rolling boil, 4.5 minutes. That's not too bad. I thought that it would perform a little bit better but that's not bad. So let's go ahead and take a look now at the flame control. Let's see how this works. Does this flame control look pretty good? I want to get it down to like a simmer. Oh yeah. That flame control is looking really nice. So as you can see, the stove is working very good. 4.5 minutes to boil 1 liter of water with probably old fuel. That's good enough for me. I don't have any problem with that at all. Well folks, I want to say thank you for joining me today on this video repairing the Coleman Powerhouse 414. I can't believe I picked this up for $10. I hope you guys got some good useful information out of this video. My next step with this stove is to take it inside, clean it, wash it, but I'm not going to bore you guys through that. I just wanted to show you what it took for me to get this thing operational, and 4.5 minutes to boil 1 liter of water. That's acceptable for me, given the chance that this fuel might be old fuel, and God knows what kind of fuel it is. It just smells like some kind of gasoline. So that's acceptable for me. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please feel free to leave your comments down below. Like this video, share this video, and until next time, I hope you guys have a beautiful day. We'll see you on the next one. Bye for now.